amigos? I am Rodolfo Ramos, Bradesco BBI's Mexico strategist, and welcome to It's What's What in Mexico, our bi-weekly video product to give you our latest views. So we couldn't let you down today, and so we had to come up with a very special shooting location here, and we are in Roosevelt Island with Manhattan right here behind me. So I hope that you find this scenery very enjoyable. So diving in here to our content, we have three topics as we normally do. We're going to be covering firstly and most importantly our thoughts on the very controversial, consequential judicial election. Second, we're going to be talking about some of the incidents and developments on the security front that Mexico has seen. And we're going to close here with our thoughts on the tariff negotiations and what it means for nearshoring assets. So kicking off here with our first point on judicial election, as you know, Mexico is going to be heading into this experiment on Sunday where for the first time Mexicans are going to be voting to elect members of the judicial branch. Over 800 posts are going to be up for election, including the whole Supreme Court, members of the Tribunal Court, the disciplinary body, and many more magistrates and district court judges. So this is a very consequential reform of Mexico, of course very controversial because there is inherently a lot of uncertainty associated with it. Our interpretation of this election and this reform has been a much more neutral one. We do believe that it brings uncertainty, but it also introduces a much more transparent and much greater public scrutiny into some of the members of Mexico's judicial branch. We had the opportunity to catch up with Carlota Ramos, who is member of the legal team of Claudia Sheinbaum, and she voiced this view of greater transparency, of course, greater accountability, but also the intention of utilizing to a greater extent these alternative resolution dispute resolution clauses within Mexico's legal system, not only to make the procurement of justice in more of commercial matters more expeditious, but also to have a much more effective court. So this is great news, and we've actually seen some of our loyal friends advising companies to include these ADRs that they call into their contracts. No, so again, this reduces the uncertainty, the legal uncertainty for certain commercial agreements, and prevents this aversion of investment going into Mexico because of what this reform or this new election might mean for their business. No, so as I mentioned, our take on this has been much more neutral. We do believe that the real litmus test for us will be for when we see a disagreement between a private company and the government, and once that they file an injunction and once their dispute is formalized, how this dispute makes it all the way through Mexico's legal system and ends up in the Supreme Court. So that is going to be the ultimate litmus test, and in and of itself, we don't believe the election, of course, and the reform are contrary to the USMCA framework, but some of the agreements and some of the decisions that it might make could be. So this is going to be a very dynamic and very an area that we're going to have to remain on top of and monitor. We'll keep you posted, of course, on the results and what it all means for investments in Mexico. Moving on here to our second point, and very unfortunate point, but over in the last a few days there was a very high profile attack on the Mexico City government, where two close aides of Clara Brugada, the head of Mexico City's government, were brutally killed in broad daylight in Mexico City. Of course, this was a very unfortunate attack, and it was a very clear message from Mexico's organized crime, not only because it was done at broad daylight, but it was also done right at the time where Claudia Sheinbaum was having her press conference. No? So we do believe that Mexico still has a lot of challenges ahead on this front, but we continue to see the government committed to making to improving on that front and making leeway. And we have seen positive comments from the U.S. government on this front. And most importantly, the new U.S. ambassador to Mexico recently commended some of the efforts that Mexico has been making right after there was a very high-profile apprehension from the Mexico side. So we do believe that it's a very painful. It'll be a painful process, but we are moving in the right direction, and we continue to give the Minister of Public Safety, Omar Garcia Harfuch, the benefit of the doubt on what they're doing and the progress that we've seen. If we look at statistics more broadly, homicides, they have been coming down. So we do hope that they are successful in their efforts. And just to close here with our thoughts on these trade negotiations between U.S. and Mexico, they continue to be ongoing, but we have seen a much more confident Minister of Economy, Marcelo Ebrard, also his Deputy Minister, Luis Rosendo Gutierrez, visiting constantly Washington, D.C., meeting with their counterparts, addressing some of the tariffs that are currently in place, and that they have voiced their expectation of a USMCA review starting in the second half of this year. This would be, right around, maybe perhaps a little bit earlier than the official schedule. So we believe that this would be a very good news for nearshoring assets in general. Companies continue to be in a wait-and-see mode, but we have seen already investors looking at the growth opportunities going forward. If we look at assets, price assets for real industrial real estate companies, for example, we have already seen investors looking at the growth again, and this is a theme that we continue to be very optimistic on, and we do believe that once the dust settles on the tariff front, that Mexico will have a much better standing vis-a-vis the rest of the world when it comes to accessing the U.S. market. So these are the 3 points, the content that we had here for you. We hope that you find it useful. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us on social media or via email. And until the next time, take care, amigos. Ciao, ciao.